Okay, so good morning, everyone, and good afternoon or good evening if you are not from this part of the world. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Alan Cameron-Sweeney. It's a very, I like the name. So he's going to be taking us on finance storytelling and me reading about him, trying to find out about from his different resources, and also I've gone to check his podcast, his website, his blogs. It's completely different. The way he goes about finance is something completely different from anyone else we've had, and different from, I'm sure, maybe anything else you've experienced. And he's a very I would like to use the celebrity kind of. So he's used to speaking to thousands. He's a keynote speaker. And so we are very, very lucky that he's speaking to our own small group. And uh, I would like to quickly get done with the introduction so that he can have time to do the main thing he's come here for us to do. Just to mention our sponsors, Financial Model Institute is one of our sponsors, and they have generously given us 40% discount code to give to everyone who is intending to take the exam this month. So there's the AFM exam happening this month. So just as the session goes on, I'll paste the code in the chat so that you can have it. And also UrBizEdge, you can see I try to even put the banner permanently at behind. We are the ones making sure that we bring you these every week. So if you need trainings around what we do, always it will be good if you check out our trainings and subscribe, and you get more than even what we already make happen free for everyone. So to the main thing, so I had to go grab this from his site because it just perfectly shows you that you are getting someone who is used to speaking to finance people, decision makers, and bringing a different twist to how people use finance, how people go about the value behind the numbers. And so I'm not going to take too much time. I'm going to just immediately hand over to Alan. I'm going to paste all these links in the chat. Are you okay with me pasting your LinkedIn link also?
Yes, please. I was going to do that at the end. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to paste all these. And so, Alan, it's a pleasure to have you. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, take off my video. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you, Michael.
Pleasure.
So just double check, am I on the main view on Teams now?
Yes.
Beautiful.
I can spotlight you if that's what you also want.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Just let me know when you want to share, because if I spotlight and you share only, that won't show.
I won't need to share throughout. I've got a different little setup. So once you spotlight me, I'm all good for the length of the time.
Done.
So hello, folks. I am in Australia, but you might notice my accent is actually Irish. So I've been in Australia for 12 years now. So just get that out of the way. Now, I want to be able to give context for you folks who are here today. So the first thing I would like you to do is I would like you to type your job position. What is your job position and what is the industry? If you could type that in the chat now, that will help me give the right kind of advice today. So in the chat, if you could type what your job is and what industry you work in, that'd be really good. So whether you're working as an analyst or whether you're working as an accountant, and maybe you're working in industry, or you've got assistant analyst in education, a financial modeler in the consulting industry, fantastic. Thank you, Ahmed, and obviously Michael. Can we get a few more answers, or it's all going to be directed towards the system analyst and the financial modeler today, folks? Guys, we will make it a student MBA first year specializing in finance. Thank you. If you're a student, we will have some extra advice career advice at the end. Graduate trainee and management consultant and an accountant in the construction industry. All right. Thank you very much, folks. Now, I have another question for you, which kind of shapes what the session is today. And I understand that those who are, if you're a student, you mightn't quite have an answer or a thought on this, but when finance communicates with senior leaders, so CFOs, CEOs, etc., how do you think senior management feel after finance has communicated with them? How do you think they feel? Do you think they're happy? Do you think they like what they get from finance? So in the chat comments again, if you can type what you think senior leaders think of finance communication, I want to get you started thinking about the end result for today's session, because that's what we're going to improve. I'll give you a moment to think about it. Are senior leaders happy with the way finance communicates? We've no comments yet, so I'm going to probe you. I'm going to wait till at least one person comments, and one person that's not Michael. Folks, if it makes it easier today, because I'm not sure how many have we got on the call, we've about 12 or 15. If some of you want to come off mute, if you're in an area that's quiet, you can come off mute, and even if you want to, you can put on your camera, and we can actually answer the questions verbally as we go along, if that makes it easier.
Most senior leaders are not satisfied with accountants.
And why do you think that is? They're not satisfied. Do you know what? You've hit it right on the head. Is that Promise? Is that how you pronounce your name? So he said they're not satisfied. And do you know what I was going to say? This is what I was going to say senior leaders feel like. So they can't get any satisfaction. And why is that? Well, to tell you why senior leaders can't get the satisfaction, and Promise was right on the money there. So to tell you why, I need to tell you about a training I was providing in Melbourne to CPA Australia at their head office. Now, CPA Australia is kind of the largest accountancy body here in Australia. And I was doing training on how to improve financial reports. We were doing a workshop. And at the end of the workshop, we were going to do a longer activity. And it was going to be a role play scenario. So I was going to play the role of CFO. And in this scenario, I'd been on holidays for 3 weeks and I had no internet coverage. I had no access to what was happening in the business world. Yet sales had dropped 30% in the month. And when I'd come back from holidays, I was going to go straight in to a board meeting with the CEO. Now, each of the teams, we said, okay, you are going to prepare a report and you're going to have 1 minute to brief me before I go into this meeting. So we gave the teams, 20, 30 minutes to prepare a report. And they each then, in turn, had their 1 minute to prep me at the front of the room. Now, a lot of them told me what happened. A lot of them told me why it had happened. But what did no team give me? In the chat box again, what did no team give me in terms of that brief before I went into the meeting? And again, you can come off mute again if you like to answer this verbally or in the chat box. As the CFO, what did no team give me?
I'm not sure if you see some of our answers in the chat box.
I can't see any answers in the chat box. I can only see the last chat was at 08. Oh, now they're coming through. So lots of people, of people are coming through. Right. No wonder I couldn't see them. Okay. So senior leaders are not satisfied. Beautiful. How to fix it. Michael, very good. Yes, there was no solutions provided. So I was going to go into the meeting. The CEO would say, what happened? And I'd tell him. And then he said, well, Alan, what are you going to do about it? And I would have had nothing to offer him. And as a CFO, that wouldn't get very far. I'd be standing there saying, well, you know, my team hasn't done any analysis. I'll get back to you later, which isn't really gonna help me as a CFO. So in order to fix this, this is where finance storytelling comes into play. And to tell you about that, we're going to go to the whiteboard. So as Michael mentioned earlier, I do run a podcast. Sorry, I'll just get my little monitor out of the way. I do run a podcast. And when I was starting the podcast, I wanted to be, you know, make sure that I'm a good storyteller. And as it happens, I'm really into data visualization, and I also give talks on data visualization. So I was kind of looking for a visual representation of a story. And I came across a professor called Kurt Van Gurt, and he had visualized what's known as the shape of a story. And that was kind of the basis. So I want to show you guys that. So he started off and he had his first axis, and this is called the GI axis. G is for good health and wealth, and I is for everything that is ill health and poverty, all right? And now we have our other axis. And this is the BE axis, the beginning and the end. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Now, the stories that he modeled have been told, you know, 100 times in movies, all right? And the first one is you get a guy or a girl, could be either, and you start them just above average. A day, just above average, they're happy enough. But then what happens? Something bad happens, and they're in the pits, right? They're not happy. And you go, what's going to happen? And then, of course, like all good stories, there's a solution. And this is called Man in a Hole. Obviously, it does exactly what it says on the tin. Now, there's another type of story that's also been told a million times and people have made millions of dollars from it. It's called Boy Meets Girl. So you take someone and they're not having a great day, but then they meet the person of their dreams. But like all good movies, something bad has to happen. And he loses the girl. Then, of course, by the end of the movie, the girl is back and he ends up being very happy. And this kind of shape of the story, it struck me to marry up with another idea. And I go back to the other camera so I can see the comments. Have you heard of the mental model, what, so what, now what? So in the comments, hopefully they'll show up as you guys type them. Have you heard of the mental model, what, so what, now what? If you just type yes or no, that would be great. Or you can come off mute again, because I don't seem to be, no, we've got one no. We've got a yes from Michael. Okay. Any other takers? So one yes, one no. So thank you. I must say, as an Irish person, I'm not going to be able to pronounce some of your names very well. So I do apologize. Oreo F, thank you. And so a lot of you have heard it. Fantastic. Because when I heard this, it kind of changed the way I look at things. So from a storytelling point of view, all right, if you have an ordinary story arc, you have something that happens here, which is an inciting incident. Again, you have your man in the hole and you have the resolution. So with what, we start off with what, then we say, sorry, I don't have one of those pens that has autocorrect. We have so what, So why should people care? And then the important part. Now what? And this is what the senior leaders need. This is what senior leaders need finance people to be able to say to them, is this is what we're going to do about the issues. So what we want to focus on, what we're going to focus on today is we are going to look at building relationships with other people in other departments. We're going to look at finding the actual problems, so the root cause of problems. Then we're going to look at how we analyze solutions outside of finance. And then we're also going to look at how we challenge stakeholders while maintaining good relationships. All right. So what we want to do now is I want to talk to you about my son. All right. So my son was born at 26 weeks. So he was born 3 months early. And that was because my wife had preeclampsia. And Leopold, when he was born, he weighed 663 grams. So he was like a small bottle of Coke. And he stayed in hospital for 9 months. So it was 261 days. And when he came home, here is a picture of him when he came home. So you can see he's a very happy boy. But you can see he's got some things on his face. So he's got his oxygen prongs. He had oxygen for 17 months. And also over his shoulder, you can see where there's 2 tubes. One is oxygen, and the other is a feeding tube that he had in his nose, because he didn't learn to eat because he was that sick. So he had to be fed through a tube. Now, when Leopold came home, he was obviously highly medicalized, and bit of a shock to myself and my wife Claire. And Leopold had with his oxygen, he had a little dashboard that it came with it. So if he wasn't getting enough oxygen, if the prongs came out, it would start beeping. And then he had a feeding machine to feed him, and when that ran out of food, that would start beeping. And then Leopold used vomit about 6 times a day, so he just vomit everywhere. And then my dog, I have he's not here, but this is my dog. You can the cardboard cutout. And when he sees the postman or anybody who comes to the house, he goes absolutely mad. All right. So in our house, it could get really hectic with the oxygen machine was going, the food machine was beeping. Leopold was vomiting on himself. The dog was, losing his tiny little mind. So then it came to us as like, well, what is the only thing that matters? The only thing that matters is that Leopold actually was getting oxygen, right? Because that's what he needs to live. The feeding machine, that can wait. He can sit in puke, and the dog can do whatever he needs to do. The main thing is his oxygen. So we agreed that was the most important thing. Does Leopold have oxygen? And in a hectic situation, that would just cut through everything. We just say, does Leopold have oxygen? Now, the question I have for you folks, and we're going to put you into breakout rooms to have a chat about this for 3 minutes. Do you and your stakeholders agree on what's important? Do you and your stakeholders agree on what's important? So, Michael, could you please action the breakout room? So if you press the button, and how many attendees do we have?
Currently, we have 19.
Great.
That's
so if
including me and you.
Okay, so if you say maybe 3 rooms.
3 rooms, okay. 3 rooms.
So what's going to happen is, folks, you're going to go into a separate little room with about 6 of you, 5 or 6, and you're going to have a chat for 3 minutes about, do you and your stakeholders agree on what matters? And then we're going to come back to the main room. So you'll come back to that automatically. When Michael presses, he'll close the rooms in 3 minutes. And then I will get to hear about what you talked about.
Okay.
So Michael, if you could press go on that, that'd be great.
Okay, great. So in 3 minutes exactly, I should do the bin icon, right? Okay, Great, thanks. So guys, in your rooms, room I'm in? Okay. So, hello.
Hello, I think we're all still in the main room. Has it started?
Now, how do we join the rooms?
How do we join the room?
Is it okay? Okay, I think I need to click open after. So I see it's allocated people to different rooms. So I'm clicking on open then.
Oh yeah, great. The breakout room session has started and we'll be moved in 10 seconds. So it'll automatically do it now.
Oh, this is cool. This is the first time I'm using this. So this is a good learning for me. Okay. Which room am I in?
Please, which room am I?
Oh, okay. Okay, so I can see Mr. Akim, good. Mr. Saka and Oga Prashant. Okay, good. So I think we are 4 in our own room, so I don't know. We should be 5. Strange. So okay, I think he wants us to discuss about. So I think we are 4 in our rooms. So he wants us to discuss about in our company. So I don't know. Maybe everybody would think about your own company. Do you guys know what is the most important thing? If everything is falling, is everybody clear about what's that super important thing that we need to fix or that should be fixed or that gets the top priority?
I think it says now, Abi. You know, have you not taken that direction?
Okay, so sales, Abi, is that what we should?
Yes, it's very, very vital.
Okay, but what about, I don't know, what about like inflow? Like not just the sales now, the cash flow coming from the sales. What if we are making sales and they are all owing us?
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So are we? Let me just check the timer. But I agree with the sales actually. I'm just trying to throw different angles to it.
But I think sales is important. It's very primary. So cash flow cannot be how we now manage the sales. So cash flow is secondary, but sales is primary key. Yeah.
Okay. And where expenses is not like we shouldn't. So guys who are joining us, I think we are now 6. So we are discussing what should be the very important thing for us when we if everything is going wrong in the company, what's that one thing that everybody wants to fix first? So we are discussing that sales should be that thing. Are we all in agreement? You can type if you are not able to speak where you are. If you type, we'll see what you're typing. So I see Danny, I see Kendi, I see Ogasaka, and I see Prashant. Okay, so that means we conclude on sales then. Mr. Akim,
any other opinion? Yes. Is that want to say something?
Yeah, I want to say, are you going to represent our group?
No, you should represent.
No, that would be to look somehow. They will not know that we converse. They will think maybe I'm the one who did all the talking.
No. We all convert. No problem. You can represent us.
Mr. Kendi, I can see you unmuted yourself, then you mute yourself again. You want to say something?
Sorry, good morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Well, okay, so it's like you concluded on it's going to be a sales versus cash flow.
We picked sales. So like that, if things are going really haywire, let's first fix sales.
But sorry, please. I'm just thinking out loud. So, sometimes sales can be going higher, many sales, you are getting many sales, but most of your sales are on credit. So the cash flow is not coming in, but you are getting more sales. So the sales might actually not be a good thing to look at sometimes.
Okay. So I don't know. Should we combine it? Will it allow us to say sales and cash flow?
Yeah. Well, I think
or should we just speak cash flow? Cash flow, Abi?
Yes, it's also very important. Maybe we can look at the two together.
Okay, you represent our group, please.
Ah,
Help us through this. Help us to bring these lights to it because the time is actually up now. So let me
Okay.
even go to that breakout stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
So we are going back already.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is really nice. It's the first time I'm using this.
We're back.
Okay, did I do it well? Hope I didn't.
We did, but I think we stayed for about 5.5 minutes. That's all right.
Oh.
But we just do it for 3 minutes the next time. That's all good. Michael, stay with your microphone on. What in your room? Did you go to a room, Michael, or did you?
Yes.
You did. And what did you hear somebody else say about if they agreed with their stakeholders or not?
Okay, so in my room, the first person said sales, right? Then one of us also said, what about cash flow? You know, sales could really go up, but we are not getting the cash. And so it became like, okay, which is more important, sales or cash flow? And then we decided to say, okay, can't we have both as the key, as the two things to fix if when there's an issue.
Yeah, fantastic. And we'll go through a model for this in the moment. I was giving a talk over in New Zealand, and actually there was about 80 people there, 100 people, and I asked them, I said, I asked them a question, hands up, who agrees on the metrics that matter with their stakeholders? And only one person put their hand up. And I asked her, I said, what's the secret? And she said, I work for myself. So I think that is that's cheating. And just before we get to the next model, a lot of people actually ask me, how's Leopold doing now? And Leopold's doing well. And as Michael alluded to, he liked my name earlier. As a dad, I gave Leopold a very strong name to have a good start in life. So his name is Leopold Rupert Cameron-Sweeney. And with a strong name like that, we say in our house, he's either going to be, when he grows up, he's either going to be, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, a prime minister.
He's going to be a CEO or a jerk, one or the other. But he will be someone very influential or not very nice. But now, let's look at how we can we agree on metrics and allude to some of the things that were spoken about. So I had the joy of making a new executive dashboard for a company I used to work for called Schweppes Lemonade, and their turnover was around $1 billion. So I thought the hard part was going to be, how do you get all the metrics on one dashboard in terms of the visualization? Now, that was actually really simple in comparison to getting people to agree. And why is that? Well, let's draw one axis. So up here we have the company, and down here we have the department. And when I was chatting in my room, we had Coco who was saying that often the senior leader, they're just focused on the company profit. They just want to know, how is this affecting the bottom line? they're not really interested in the department in terms of why are things going wrong and kind of maybe solving the problem at the department level. They just know, how are we going to fix it and how are we going to get our company profits right? And what I found when I was doing the dashboard was we interviewed all the executives and they wanted one set of metrics. And then when we spoke to their direct reports, they actually didn't fully agree. They said, some of the times they said, that's not how we actually measure that properly. And they said, you know, sometimes it's actually a data issue in larger companies that they can't track a metric properly. But then also we had finance. And Michael, you mentioned about, you know, cash flow. What did you said cash flow or sales? And that is something that kind of comes into it. So if we have finance over here, and then if we have sales over here, I'll draw, sales can be a little trolley. Now, we want cash flow. And in terms of, well, in an FMCG, you know, selling fast moving consumer products, and in a lot of businesses, obviously, we want to know margin is really important to finance, right? Sales guys, they just want to know their sales numbers are right. And what else is in terms of the margin? We're looking at the manufacturing, the cost of sales, and those guys, they're worried about, you know, well, one of the main metrics would be, did they meet the demand correctly? So did they make the right amount of products for each product category to meet the consumer demand? So,
but for any company, we don't require only cash flow. We require the profit and loss. We require the ratios. We require all the valuations. The cash flow, the cash flow depreciate the cash which is coming and which is going out.
Definitely agree. So there would be like this is a very, you know, simplistic version. Thinking back to the dashboard that we created, we focused on 4 sections. So we focused on finance, sales, production, and we focused on people. And each one had about, we had about maybe 6 or 7 key metrics for each one. So there's definitely a lot of things at play, and that's where it gets really complicated to get agreement, because you've got people who want only looking at the top line, you've got departments, and then of course, what else have you got? You've got some people who they don't even have a company view. They're kind of just out for themselves a little bit. I'm sure we've all met the odd person like that. So there's an awful lot of competing things, right, to agree on metrics. And this is one of the things in terms of building relationships in a business. What do you do? Because some people say we end up having arguments. So does anybody know what the key is to having a strong relationship, whether it's in business or at home? What is the key thing? And you can type in the comments. I'll come back to my camera so I can see the comments again. What is the key thing to have a strong relationship in business or life? Feel free to just tell me as well if you're not getting to the chat box. Michael.
Yeah, so, I just put in mine in the chat box, and someone else too has typed.
In my point of view, transparency is very important in business. You should be on the same page. Whatever the communication is going, there should not be any mismatch, and the thinking should be same. Like someone is thinking other side, someone is thinking other side, so that we can't do not only business, anything. So these things are important.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So we've got communication, emotional intelligence, and empathy. Profit. I don't know if profit is the key driver of a relationship outside of business, maybe in business. And then we've got integrity and trust. Well, I can tell you a lot of people do say the answer is communication. But sometimes, and if we think of this outside of business, and if we think about maybe our partners, I know with my wife, communication can break down, especially if we're both sick, tired, and grumpy. We're normal humans, and yes, we do argue. All right. So what is the key thing? It was best said by Aretha Franklin. So hopefully this will play for you now. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, T-F-T-C-T. It's respect. Respect is the highest level driver, and communication does sit under it, and so does integrity, trust, and we're talking about emotional intelligence and empathy. But it is respect. And when we have so many competing things, we have to say, okay, well, what are the things that matter to you? And from both sides, and put them all on the table and listen respectfully.
One more point
Yeah.
I will add here. The most important thing in my point of view, respect is always there, but the trust. If you don't have a trust of anyone, then you can't do business, because the trust factor is very much important while doing a business. So you should have the trust of second other person, in my point of view.
I completely agree. Thank you for that. And I must actually look into that. Where does trust fit into respect? They're probably both at a really similar level. So I'm gonna look into that one, because I imagined if I didn't trust my wife, I wouldn't have much respect for her. So that's a very good point. Thank you. But yeah, you need to take everyone's kind of side of where they're coming from and respect it to sit down. So put your own thoughts aside and fully listen, and then hopefully they will do the same, and then you can come together and agree on what really matters. So respect each person and where they're coming from is the thing. All right. Any questions so far?
Okay. So any questions from participants in the house? This is the opportunity to ask your question.
We'll have more parts to ask questions as we go along, but I do like to check in.
Okay.
Just one question I have, like when we do any business, I will also planning to do. So in business, sometimes there's always a trust, but at the other point of time, the people always think of creating more and more profit, because in this world, people are selfish. Everyone will think of their own benefit. So the money comes to a picture, and when the money comes to a picture, no, like the people will keep you aside. So it is a very deep and it's very big thing. If you can answer how to deal with these type of situations, because this situation occur, because the money play a very important role doing business or doing anything.
So how do you mean? Do you mean in terms of challenging the other person on the profits they're seeking?
No, basically, I was planning to do some business in the future, but how to trust that particular person in terms of money, whether he will be there or he will not be there. So how to trust someone else, whether we can trust to some of the people, but we can't trust anyone, because if we are investing, if I am investing, if you are investing, how much profit he will, so that creates you can say there's not understanding with everyone. I can be with fruitful 110% to one guy, but I can be to 110% to another guy, and the people are expecting a help, but they are not giving anything in return. So like in this world, we also want anything in return when we are investing anything. So I want something in return, ROI, which I call return on investment. So how to deal in this situation, because you have been doing this thing. So I'm a beginner. I don't have much.
So people don't want to give enough ROI, is that it?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So the way to because some of these people maybe you just shouldn't do business with, but I'm going to give you, and we're going to come to this shortly. I'm going to give you 3 magic words so you can start questioning that person while maintaining the relationship. So I will come to that in 2 more sections. We will come to how to challenge people respectively. So I'll answer that then if that's okay.
Great.
All right. So we'll move on to, and I'm just looking at the time, so we're at 20 past 8 already. We're going to look at now how we assess solutions in terms of the business side, all right? So I'm going to talk you through a model for that. Yeah, we'll go straight into that one. All right, great. So this is called a funnel model, and the name is exactly what it sounds like. We've got a funnel, and we want to look at an activity that the business is proposing in order to, so let's say it's the example I'm going to use is a company who builds big trailers that go on the back of lorries. It was a company I was doing some training for, and they needed to have a recovery plan because one type of trailer wasn't selling at all. And in order to make budget, they needed to sell, and I'm going to keep the numbers pretty easy here, they needed to sell 100 trailers on top of what they already done that year. So the end goal at the bottom of the funnel was 100. Now, in terms of the finance side, you know, you'd have done the model and said, yes, 100 trailers will help us meet budget. But what finance needs to do to be able to provide proper solutions is to be able to assess whether this activity on the business side, on the sales side, is it actually going to be able to happen? So then you start breaking down the activities that need to happen. So you would say, okay, if we're going to sell 100 trailers, what do we need to do that? Well, we need to give out 200 quotes. For every 2 quotes we give out, we sell 1 trailer. So we would put in 200 here, and that's 200 quotes. And then we go a step again. What do we need to do to give out 200 quotes? And I'm going to keep the math simple again. To get 1 quote, we need to do 2 sales meetings. So that would be 400 meetings. Fantastic. And then we say, what do we need to do to get a meeting? Well, we need 4 prospects in order to get 1 meeting. So that would be 1,600. Sorry if my writing is a bit small there on the side. That'll be 1,600 prospects. And from there, in terms of, you know, I like the phrase sense checking of, is this recovery plan actually possible? You could say, do we have 1,600 leads that we can try and set up a meeting with? Okay, we have the leads, great. 400 meetings, that's a lot of meetings. Do we have the salespeople to do that? And then on top of that, you might say, okay, we've sold 100 trailers. Do we have capacity to build those trailers? These are all the questions you need to ask to see is it sense checkable. And what turns out with the trailer company, in terms of getting these sales, they actually had worked out if they hire another salesperson, how many trailers they could buy. And the answer was, so we'll say one sales guy or lady equals 80 trailers. So they kind of knew that. So then you say, okay, if we need to make this happen, we need to go out and hire another salesperson. When do we start the recruitment process? So that is how you can break down the business side of it. And it's important because, as I often say, if you're probably no doubt aware of the phrase business partnering, finance people need to get out from behind their desk and go and speak to the rest of the business. And when you have the relationships, you can then have the conversations with people and work through whether recovery plans or any plan is actually going to happen in the reality, you know, outside of the spreadsheet saying it's going to work. So that's an important way to do it. But we talked about, in terms of relationships, which we're going to get back to now, and challenging our stakeholders. There's certain things you can do to challenge stakeholders and still have a strong relationship, all right? So there's a couple of things. I'll start with the things not to do. So somebody comes to you with a recovery plan and it's a really bad idea, right? It's terrible, right? Do not stand there and go, you're wrong, because that will break down a relationship, right? So we don't want to do that. And when you're talking to your stakeholders, there's another thing you don't want to do is what's called a definitive statement. And saying you're wrong is a definitive statement, because what if you weren't right? What if they were actually right and you didn't have the whole context? A definitive statement leaves you nowhere to go. So you don't want to say things that are matter of fact. I often use the language and I would say, this doesn't appear like it's correct. And then, so you're not saying definitely that something is wrong. You're saying it appears, and it's one of my favorite words, appears. So it lets the other person, what they say is, lets the other person save face, which is important, which kind of loops back into you're wrong. But the question that was there, how do we challenge someone on their ROI? There is 3 magic words that I use an awful lot, and they are help me understand.
Wow.
Help me understand are 3 great words for business or life. And let's say I'm just going to make up a scenario that I'm going to invest money with somebody and they say, Alan, I will give you 5% yearly return. But in reality, let's say the rest of the market's given me 10. So we could have an argument and I could say, no, I could say 5% is terrible. The bank down the road or the investment company down the road will give me 10%. And then we could end up with a heated argument. Or I could say to the person, you're given a 5% return. And I could say, help me understand why you are offering 5% in comparison to the investment company down the road that's going to do 10. Help me understand why I should invest with you. And now, this is the beauty of it. You haven't had to explain why the 5% is bad. You haven't had to explain anything. The onus is now on that person to defend the 5%. So it's important when you say, help me understand, there's a second step, and that is say nothing. If there's silence, because there often will be silence when people are trying to kind of come up with an excuse, you just sit there and wait till they come out with something and let them defend the lower range investment of 5%. So who asked the question? Does that kind of help, or have you further questions? I can't remember who asked the question.
It was Prashant. Let's see if he's still. Yeah, he's still on the call. Maybe he will unmute later, but I've been writing this down. This is definitely going to help me. And someone also was asking, so someone asked a question. Let me. Okay, so Maureen said, oh, I think it's something about what you wrote on the Cornell sheet. Maureen, do you want to ask exactly what
previous sheet?
I'd like to take a screenshot of the previous sheet.
This one?
Yeah. Yes, this one. Thank you. Done now. Thank you very much.
So
Well,
she
do you,
wanted to
you
take
have a
screenshot.
question, or you'd like you'd like a screenshot? Is that it?
Yeah, a screenshot. She's done that already. So she says we can go on. Oh, very kind of you. I'm also taking a screenshot.
That's all good.
Okay, good. So I think
All right.
we're great with that.
All right, fantastic. So, oh, no, we're going the other way. So yeah, help me understand, and you can use this at home, right? So if my wife said to me, Alan, let's spend $500 on new curtains, but I want to go on holidays with the $500, I could say, Claire, help me understand why we should spend $500 on curtains instead of a holiday. And the beauty of it is then she gets to explain her own bad idea to me, and then it'll kind of, hopefully, in asking the question, it kind of teases out what's maybe wrong with the idea. But of course, I've respected her by listening to her, and it's not gotten what I want, but I've shown her it's not a great idea without saying she's wrong and without saying anything negative. So help me understand. It's as good in business as it is at home, to be honest, and we use it a lot. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes left, so we are going to go on to the last part, and then we'll take some more questions. So next up, I have a song I'm going to play for you, and what I want to know from you is, in this song, why is the message easy to understand? Why is the message of this song easy to understand? I'm just going to... Oh. I don't think that's coming through properly.
No.
I don't know why it's not, because I can see on my screen it's not coming through. That's all right. The song was War, What Is It Good For? And the opening of the song, it goes, War, dun, dun, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Right? And then it goes, War. Yeah, everybody knows the song, right? So the song at the start repeats. It repeats the message. And the reason it's easy to understand is because it's really simple, right? So when we're doing finance storytelling, we want to keep things simple, because especially our non-finance people, they will get lost in a table of numbers that you provide them. So as I mentioned before, I'm a fan of data visualization. So how can we visualize finance story while giving senior leaders what they need? All right, so I'm gonna draw out the visual now, and you could do something like this in a PowerPoint. All right. So for our finance, again, we're going to have an axis, and this will be our profit, and then our other axis, this is timeline. So this would be over here, you know, the year to date, etc., or year end. All right. So I'm going to go back to the example I said about, I didn't actually cover that one. So the example is we had too much overtime, okay, in a manufacturing business. And the reason for it was because the machines kept breaking down. And then we had to run overtime because we needed the machines to run out of hours. So we had to pay a lot of overtime. And then when you ask the question to find the real issue, why do the machines keep breaking down? It's because they are really old. So that is the idea, or that's the problem we want to fix. So it starts off again with visualizing our problem. You know, we were doing okay. We have the incident with the machines, and our profit goes down here. Is that okay? Everyone okay?
Yes, I was remembering what you said, man in the hole.
Man in the hole. Exactly. This is going to be this, right? So it is man in a hole. It is the machine. The bad machines have put us in a hole, right? It's exactly it. So now, so we're thinking about this, right? So if this keeps happening, we think about budgets, and we're not going to meet our targets, right? So we won't meet. If this keeps happening, we're not going to do it. We're not going to meet targets. Now, with senior leaders, the role to me of senior leaders is they get paid the big bucks to make decisions, all right? So then what does that mean for finance? Finance, in terms of, you know, business partnering and helping the business, their role is to assist the rest of the business make the best financial decisions they can. So we would therefore, I would map out options, all right? So option one would be nothing. And that's going to be even less profit. Then we might have a second option. And this would be to repair. And at least option two is better than option one. And then we have option three, which I'm sure you can guess. New machines, all right? So if we buy new machines, we're not going to have all this overtime. But that's not the end of it. We think about our audience, obviously, as we're presenting to senior leaders. And this is a kind of an issue. When I said earlier about, let me just get the, so this is our manufacturing department, right? And for the manufacturing department, it might make complete sense that if they buy new machines, they're going to make more profit. But from a company point of view, what is if your department asks for new machines, what is senior management going to have to think about? They're going to have to think about CapEx. They're going to have to think about capital expenditure. And not just in your department, but in the overall company. Some years, you know, big business, they might have a good chunk of CapEx for new projects, and some years they might have less. So these are all the things that have to be thought about in order to get the solutions over the line. So you might actually have conversations with people to see what CapEx is actually available before this is presented. But that is essentially, and I know this is a simplistic example, and things obviously in finance get more complicated than that, but that is essentially how I would do it. But there's one last thing. What sells a newspaper is a headline, and senior management don't have a lot of time, so you want to get their attention. You want to tell them what you need. What do you need from the senior management? So you need a headline of decision needed on machines. And that is telling senior management what it is you actually need from them. All right, we're 1 minute past 9, my apologies.
We thoroughly
Questions?
enjoyed the session. So if you have more to share, except I know it's almost midnight for you, so we are at your time is our time. If you think you need more time, we are here. This is our morning.
That's okay. I've skipped 1 or 2 parts along the way to keep us on time. I'm not in a rush away, but I think what I'd like to do now is, folks, if you have questions, and Michael, I know you have some questions for me as well, so I'm not in a rush away, but perhaps we can go to questions, or if you'd like me to go back through any of the models I've drawn, feel free. I am at your service now, folks.
Okay, let me sneak in one question. So one issue that so for me, I came into finance more like from an IT side of things. So I used to be in IT, then data, and then finance. So I'm not so much used to seeing the whole picture. So my question is, when I'm helping a company or I'm working with a company, but now in terms of financial analysis or planning, most times they too don't tell me the full picture. How do I have a, how do you do it that you get to make them tell you the full picture? So for instance, maybe they are telling me about a problem that it's a $1 USD problem, but the company, maybe that sorry, 1 million USD that the whole thing involved in fixing is 1 million USD. For me, because of the size of my business and experience and coming from IT, I look at that as a huge cost. But for the company, maybe that's even something they spend on an idea they don't on research on something that for them it's not a big deal. It's something that's a 15-minute sales for them. So how do I go in with a mind? What approach do I use to begin to understand what's maybe for them what is a big, what they are looking at things in value of 800 million USD. That's, how do I get them to tell me the full picture?
Well, it's interesting. Have you had conversations where you've asked them to tell you the full picture?
So
have you asked them?
Okay, the ones where it is the whole company is trying to raise money, or it's maybe I'm doing their entire financials. Yes, they do tell me, but then I've had usually ones where it's like a project. It could be like an expansion project. It could be like a fixing a problem that's like the one you mentioned, the machines. Now, for me now, maybe that machine is for a particular production line that accounts for like 10% of their sales, or let's even say 5% of their sales. Me, I don't know. I might be thinking that's like something that accounts for 80% of their sales. Not that I'm thinking that, but the approach I'm taking to it, I'm taking it as if it's a very huge something, and then I'm looking at how do I do this in a lowest impact for them in terms of finances, and for them, maybe they just want to have it fixed. They don't, for the management, they don't even want to think about it. So getting it fixed and not being something that's being brought to their attention repeatedly is what's key for them, and not so much doing it, fixing it at the cheapest cost. So I don't know if you have
so
any.
What I would do there is that it nearly needs to be worth their while for them to tell you. So you could approach it. The way I would approach things is, and you might already use these phrases yourself, I could say to them, in trying to provide you with a solution that's most valuable to you and your company, help me understand, that great phrase, how does this factor into your overall business strategy, or how significant is this manufacturing line to the business? Okay. And then I would kind of take it from there. Yeah, so you could ask them where it lies in their priorities, if it's a big priority or a low priority. Like if I was providing training to someone, I would ask them about their finance team. Where does this training fit in your priority for the finance team? Sometimes people don't really prioritize it. Sometimes people say our people are everything. Yeah, so you have to ask in that kind of kind fashion. And if you say, help me understand, in asking someone for help, people like to help other people generally. I will say you'll probably come across some people and they just don't want to tell you. They're like, no, just fix what I asked you to fix. Yeah, you know yourself. It doesn't help me understand, doesn't fix everything, but it'll get you somewhere.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot for that. Questions from others in the house?
Hi, Alan. This is Dr. Ratika here from India. I wanted to ask you, can you encapsulate and summarize 10 segments or 10 ratios, which from a manufacturing point of view and the books of accounts, and if one sees if there is a valuation or if there is a particular model which could be applied, those 10 ratios are constant across sectors for analysis of any business across the world. So if you can help me understand.
So I'm going to say, I'm going to get something, because I'm not going to pretend to be, I work more on business partnering than I do on analytics. But if I'm the odd time I'm doing, like I do consultancy work in terms of visualizing people's metrics. And I have this book, Key Business Analytics, the 60 analytics tools. And it also has a lot of metrics. There's also a book, they have a book on key performance indicators. I'm reading the back, 75, it says, it's not focused, 75 measures every manager needs to know. So I would look into, there's a series of these books. So yes, that's as much as I can help you with on that one.
Thank you so much.
Mike, you're welcome. Michael probably knows a lot more about metrics than I do.
No, I don't think so. So Akim also has his hands up. So Akim,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you. I really appreciate. I just want to say I like the simple metric that you came into financial modeling. So I want to ask you, are you still coming back to finish it up? I can see there's no much time, and you may still have more to tell us on this particular approach that you are trying to teach us on. Are you still coming
Do I
back?
have more? Sorry, is the question, do I have more to tell you?
Yes. I think you've not finished. You just because of time. Are you still, maybe do you have more time for us to come and finish it up? Can see you've not really concluded.
Now or later? Do you mean now? Yeah, I've got two more models I can show you.
Cool.
Yeah, you want two more models?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Well, let's do two more. Let's do two more models.
Thanks,
All right, okay.
Akivo. Thanks for this.
No worries. Is there any, while we're at it though, is there any other questions before I go to the two models? Excuse me for drinking Red Bull. It's been, I'm a bit tired. All right.
Free adverts.
Yes. All right. So, all right. The first model I'm going to talk to you about, and we can do it over here. So when we're talking about what, in terms of getting to now what, we really need to know what the real problem is. All right. And I touched on this with the machines, right? So we said that over time, there was too much overtime, and it ended up being because of old machines. So the model we have for that is called the 5 whys. And to give you an example outside of business, if my wife was grumpy with me, and I can work for husband or wives, and I say, "What's wrong?" What does she say? "Nothing." And then I say, "Come on, is there something wrong?" And she says, "Yeah, well, something's wrong." And I say, "What's really wrong?" She goes, "It's you, you're the problem." All right. So we have to ask a couple of times. And then I found out the problem was me because I knew something was wrong. So we have the 5 whys. And I first learned of the 5 whys from a manager of mine. I was working in project transformation and I was doing the reporting from it. And in my commentary, I had just said, this project is over budget because of, well, it was actually because of contractors. And as we sat discussing it, she said, "Okay, why?" And I was like, "Oh, it's because this one particular consultant spent too much time on the project." And she's like, "Why?" I didn't know the answer. And it was really uncomfortable for her to just keep asking why. But the model says if you ask 5 whys, you'll generally get to the bottom of the problem. So we have our overtime. So too much overtime. And you would say, why? Because we needed to meet demand. Then you could say, but we did our planning correctly and we knew we had enough machine time to meet demand. So what happened to plan? Machines broken down. And then you say, why do our machines keep breaking down? Because the real answer is they're old machines. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4. Sometimes you won't need all 5 whys. Sometimes you have a meeting and there's 3 whys, and then there's one kind of what the hell when people find out the real problem. So by asking why 5 times, you can get to the root cause of the problem. And that's so important in order to be able to provide this now what, that you can provide a solution to what the real problem is, and not just a symptomatic thing of someone might say, oh, if there's too much overtime, they might say, oh, well, let's just cap the amount of overtime that people are allowed to do. But then, of course, that'll have a knock-on effect and you won't meet demand. Is this helpful?
Yeah, very helpful. Nice.
All right, very good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, one more. So now, what about what we're going to talk about now?
Turn the sheet back, please. Turn the sheet back, please. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Sorry, my writing's not very big this time.
Yeah, let me also grab the screen.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. The next thing, well, the other model we'll talk about is what's called, have you heard of the phrase low-hanging fruit?
Yes.
Yeah, so people have heard the phrase low-hanging fruit. And I'll do, so you draw, this kind of helps the decision-making process. So where can we get quick wins? I think Coco mentioned in our chat earlier, senior management are often looking for quick wins. How can we improve profit now? So this is a model that helps you plot the different options you have and to see which ones will give you some quick wins. So again, we have 2 axes, and this one is effort. No, this one isn't effort. This one is impact. And then this one is effort. Effort. Again, my spelling is not great at this time, right? Effort. And this is up here. This here is low effort, and this here is high effort. And this here is impact, which would be low effort or low impact, and this would be high impact. All right, so I'm going to use a real basic example here. I need to lose some weight, right? We've been in lockdown here in Melbourne for a long time, so we don't get to work out as much as we like. So let's say there's a couple of things I could do to lose weight and be healthier. So let's map these things here. All right. So first one, I could go and cycle my bike every day for 30 kilometers, right? So in terms of effort, that effort's pretty high to cycle my bicycle for 30 kilometers, right? And in terms of impact, I know for a fact that if I cycle a bicycle for 30 kilometers a day, I don't actually lose that much weight. It's not something that works for me. So that would be low impact, but high effort, right? So I'll draw my bicycle. There's my bicycle. It's low impact, high effort. We don't really, that's not low hanging fruit, all right? What is something that works, something else that I do? I like to do yoga. Yoga to me, in terms of impact, is it's high impact, but it also means I need to leave the house for about 2 hours in the evening time. So in terms of effort, it takes me a lot of time. So we'll say it's high impact, but it's medium effort. So, you know, that's okay. It's not fantastic. But what about some low-hanging fruit? So for my breakfast every morning, I used to have yogurts. Yogurts here in Australia are very high in sugar, and sugar makes me fat. So if I change my breakfast to having something that's high in protein, like eggs and black beans, that kind of helps me keep my weight under control. Now, in terms of effort, changing my breakfast to just having some scrambled eggs and beans, that's low effort. And the impact, well, it's one of the highest, it's one of the most impactful things I can do to watch my weight is watch what I eat. So we put breakfast up here. So breakfast is low-hanging fruit for me to lose weight. So that's the model. I'll put the name up here, and you can take a picture of low-hanging fruit. And we'll circle that. The low-hanging fruit is this one. That's the winner. So in terms of business, right? So I remember the first time I learned this, consultant had come in to do a workshop in the company where I worked on, and we mapped out what we thought our process improvement ideas were going to be, and then what we did was we got all the ideas, and we took say our top 10 ideas at the end of the session, and then we mapped them all out to see what was the low-hanging fruit. And then we really had a plan to move forward. So if you're working with your stakeholders on the other side of the business, and it might be if we mapped, so we had in the finance story, we had 3 options, we said. So I'll just get the tape. We had our 3 options. Let's map these, right? So in terms of doing nothing, in just letting these things slide, it's low effort because we don't do anything, right? But the impact is 0. It's actually negative. We start losing money, all right? So nothing would be over there. I'll just put a little M for machine, right? So we'll say nothing. Now, if we said, what if we just repair the machines? So if we repair the machines, the effort to repair a machine, I'll say it's low effort. And in terms of impact, it's not high impact, but it might be about here. So we'll say machine repair. And then if we said about buying new machines, well, the effort to buy new machines and the effort to get the capital expenditure and then install them and then have more downtime, and maybe there's training on the new machines, the effort, I would say, is quite high. No, we'd say it's about here. It's about 75% effort, right? But the impact is the highest. So we'd come over here and we'd say, let's say about here, machine, and that is new. So then in making the decisions, you could also have this chart and say, for new machines, do nothing. It's not great. It really depends on the CapEx, whether you're going between one of these two. which is where we landed up the first time. Questions? Or do you want a picture? Ooh.
Well, thanks. So, wow, people are really clapping. We are really enjoying your sessions. And you've been standing all this while. I hope you're not. This is already midnight for you.
It's only 20 past 9 now. We're all good. All right, questions?
Okay. Any questions as we try to wrap up? Okay. So shall I ask the planned questions? If anyone has any question, you can also ask. But as you know, we always ask our guests 2 special questions. All right. So Alan, we would like to know your journey, your unique journey. I'm really, really interested in it because I don't know anyone else doing exactly this you're doing. Everybody tries to say they do it, but they don't do it this level and definitely not this way and take it at this serious. You do it on a much serious level. So we would like to know about your journey. How did this all start?
Yeah, for sure. I finished, well, I'll just go quickly from high school. So I finished high school. I went to become a programmer and I dropped out of college. And then I studied, I got a job in a bank and I studied accountancy at nighttime. And then I got a job as a financial accountant in Ireland's biggest industrial company. They were in construction. And then I qualified there. And then we had the global financial crisis in 2009 in Ireland. So I was 25 at the time. So normally you would get promoted into an analyst job out of the trainee role, but there's no promotions. So I left the country. I went to a friend of mine in New Zealand, in Wellington, and there was no work there. So I left New Zealand after 2 months. I went to Sydney. I hated Sydney in Australia. It's too big. I can't do big cities. And then I came to Melbourne, which is kind of the second largest city in Australia, but it seems like a smaller place. So I've been here since 2010 and things started just kind of to work out for me. And then I learned programming. So I learned Excel VBA and I learned SQL. And I was then working in finance transformation. So this is where I worked at a Sahi and what they're called a Sahi and Schweppes, a beer and lemonade company. You have Schweppes in Africa, yeah?
Yeah, we
Asahi.
have.
Do you have Asahi beer, the Japanese beer?
No, we don't. For Schweppes, we do.
Yeah, and so I worked there in finance transformation, and then I started running the professional development program for the finance team. So there was 200 people in finance, and I was doing like the development part. But the reason I was able to do that, and this I think might lead on to your other question as well, the biggest influence on my career was started off. Do you guys have Toastmasters?
Yes.
Yeah, public speaking group. Yeah. So when I came to Australia, when I'd done a presentation in university, I was terrible. So my mother, who was actually in Toastmasters in Ireland, said, now that you have some time, because I wasn't playing as much sport, join Toastmasters. And then I joined Toastmasters, and that gave me the confidence to run the events because I had to stand up and speak in front of 70 people. And it got me used to putting my ideas out there. So when the opportunity...
Yeah, sorry, you did mention that once in a while this can happen. So he's going to join back, you know. He's got a backup internet. I'm really interested in hearing the story, actually.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Yes, morning. No, thanks for joining. I thought you wanted to ask a question. One time I saw your hand up.
Not really, not really. I want to just clap and mistakenly press the button of. Thank you,
Michael.
Yes.
So it's not only in Nigeria.
Oh, cool. Welcome. I told them, I said they shouldn't worry that you mentioned that this could happen and that
Oh,
you have a second
I got
interview.
kicked. It seemed to kick me out. Somebody, I don't know how it happened. Anyway, I'm back. So public speaking, but then from public speaking, I enjoyed when I'd get a laugh from people. So I went and did stand-up comedy. So I did comedy for 5 years. And there's nothing worse than standing in front of a room full of people who don't laugh at your joke. So it's the worst thing ever. So that's the hardest thing I've probably ever done. So then standing here with a new idea, let's say about a model, I'm not trying to make you laugh. So it's a lot easier in terms of putting my ideas out there, right? So in terms of like coming up with ideas, so, you know, you say, and I appreciate your kind feedback that if I do this on a different level, I have a different expectation of what a presentation should be from doing comedy. I want this to be kind of more entertaining and engaging, and hence there's a bit of music and whatnot. And I like to bring in personal stories because it all adds to kind of the what I'm able to deliver, right? If you call it the experience, right? So yeah, that's my journey. And then, yeah, so I've been then doing a lot of speaking, and I've spoken, like I do a lot for CPA Australia, I do speaking, and then I do training. And then because I was a programmer, I do some consulting work in kind of the BI space. And I kind of want the speaking to be the main part of the business as time goes on. So yeah, that's kind of, does that answer my story? Hopefully.
Yes, and I think so. We have two things in common. I also did the Toastmasters. I became club official for like 2 years here in Lagos, but I didn't do it to your level. So that's really cool. And the other question, which if no other person asks you a question, then that will be the last question, is what's your advice? So for someone, maybe not to make it specific, what will you say is your career advice for someone fresh out of university today, but with interest in finance and analytics?
Oh, Toastmasters. Like I said, if you can have the greatest ideas in the world, but if you can't sit and speak with senior leaders to influence them, you're not going to, your level's only going to go so far. So as an analyst, you can sit there and not present. If you want to be a senior analyst or like a finance manager, you need to be able to be comfortable in how you communicate your ideas. And the great thing, as Michael, I'm sure you'll agree with me with Toastmasters, is you give a speech for 5 to 7 minutes, and then somebody stands up and gives you feedback for 3 minutes on what you did well and how you can improve.
The sandwich approach.
Yes, the sandwich approach. That's it. And there is just you get so much out of it. But I suppose the overall thing is to keep learning. I'm a big fan of reading and learning. I'll give you actually I'll pull out two things, one or two books. So the best book that changed my life on relationships, we got some of what I got today. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That changed my life. How to Be Organized. This is about if you want to set goals, and it's about organizing your day the day before to make sure you get the most important thing done for yourself. That's also changed my life. And I don't use those words lightly, that they have changed my life. And I'm trying to see what else on the bookshelf would be really good.
Can I see the first one again, please?
Yeah, I'll hold it up for you now.
That's the Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Let me see if I can get you the link, the name and link and all together in chat box.
I will keep it like this one. Getting things done.
Getting things done.
Hold them. Hold them. You can hold them all up here.
Oh, thanks a lot. Let me just screenshot.
Yeah. I'll hold my face in the screenshot for you.
It's also good. Wow. This is really generous of you. Thank you.
Of course. No, it's so important. It's so important to share. I wouldn't have learned if these people hadn't shared their great ideas. I wouldn't have them to share with you. So, yeah. How to win friends and influence people. So much of the relationship building things that I've learned has come out of that book. And yeah, it's. I think as well, it's going to be a people game going forward. So as an analyst, you know, when you come out of university, you might be doing more, spending a lot more time in the data than with people. But as you move up through the chains of command, and you know, when I was a finance manager, it's so much about people, and not just the actual, you know, let's say I was a finance manager in systems, right? I need to know lots about systems, but it just so much became about dealing with people.
Wow, thanks a lot. So I've tried to type in the books in the chat box. So though someone asked me to type it too, I've done that. So for everyone, you can also go grab the names. I didn't get the name of the author of the second, but I'm sure if you put it in Google, it's going to pop up.
Yeah, if you go into Amazon, it's they're all bestsellers at this stage.
Cool, great. Also, that How to Win and Influence People, for me also, it's one of those books. It's one of the reasons I even joined Toastmasters too. So it's a book I found very useful. So at this stage, I think we need to really let you go rest and say we are very grateful for your time. I'm going to share my screen just to show people something that I've done that I think they should do too. They should subscribe to your. I'm going to share my screen right now. So I think I've put the link, but I'll share it again. So if you go to his webpage, which, let me go, I think I have it open. Yes. All right. So if you go on his webpage, he's been now I understand. When I saw this, I was really like, yeah, this is really you in there. But now I get what you said. You did stand-up comedy. So if you go in here, just put in your name, your email, and you'll be getting some emails from him. And I would say try and go through some of his content. For me, I think they are really unique. They bring a side to our work that most people don't get someone take them on that very detailed journey on, and everybody understands that it's important, but really no one is doing it at the level he's doing it at. So please try to avail yourself of the many other things he's made available for free. And I know you have books, but how do I get your books that you've written? I think, how do I
haven't written any books. I have a podcast. If you go up to resources, and click podcast, I have a podcast about introverts. So I'm actually an introvert. So myself and my wife host a podcast, and we have a lot of fun in making fun of each other. So there's a lot of what you learn from that is the likes of the books. Like there's an episode on how planning your day keeps you calm. So that's literally based on that book.
Oh, good. I think I even have it open here. I have some of the.
Yeah.
Maybe I should also
so there you go.
This.
So how to be a better boss. So there's a lot of things there, and I put out probably an episode once a month. And yeah, no, I really enjoy putting out the podcast with my wife. It is the most me you will get is on my podcast.
Oh, great.
So if you like me,
listening.
you can listen to that.
Oh, great.
Fantastic.
So thanks a lot, and we're very grateful. And anyone wants to say anything as we wrap up the session?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the person was saying thanks too. So
I'd like to say that thank you very much, Mr. Allen and Mr. Michael. The presentation was very captivating. To be honest, I had a class. I wanted to just pop in and see what's going on, but I ended up staying the whole session. So I really want to thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
so thanks, Alan. Yeah, Alan.
Yeah.
Michael.
Yes.
Yeah, the part that got me was that it's everywhere. People are actually looking for jobs everywhere. So it's not only in this part of the world. So you need good skills to actually get good jobs. So Thanks so much, Alan.
Welcome.
I agree. Thanks. So I guess anytime you come to this part of the, in fact, not just part of the world, part of Africa, the Western African side, please just let us know. You know, we might be lucky that you might be chance to come over to Nigeria, and then, you know, we get to you do comedy for stand-up comedy. You just tell us how we should set up the stage. You know, I bet you we laugh here, so don't worry, you won't have problem getting us to laugh.
Well, if I'm ever in Africa, I will make sure to stop by and say hello. That'll be great.
Great. Thank you very much. And at this juncture, we will let you go have a nice rest and prepare for Monday. So thank you, and our hello to Leopold, to your wife. I also saw the dog. I see him a lot in some of your pictures. So
yeah,
you have to put back his.
The dog's here. He's asleep at the minute somewhere, but he's here.
Oh, great.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate you having me. I'll say good night, guys. Have a good day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.